The faster we deliver our products and services to our customers, the faster we get paid. So, how can leaders improve customer delivery without dramatically increasing cost?
Well, it's kind of the funny thing, like, speeding up the process is usually the most cost-effective thing to do,
Mm.
right? So a lot of times you can get faster speed and quality at the same time. It's really looking at it and making sure um, that things are running properly. And for things to run properly, everybody needs to know like their roles and responsibilities. They need to have the information that they need to do their jobs. They need to know what they're getting from the upstream people, what the downstream people need from them. I think the job of management is just sort of to look down the road and see what the obstacles are and get them out of the road so that when the people come, they can just go smoothly down the road. Um, so management should always be a little more forward looking than their employees and making sure that things are taken care of and out of the way for them. But the process, people kind of eyes glaze over if I like if I'm at a networking meeting and someone says, "Oh, you do process work." It's just like they shut down, right? Like, all right, nice to have met you. Bye. but um, but I think that's because a lot of people don't do it well, and they just produce huge amounts of documentation, and that's just not useful because nobody is going to update anything like that. It's too bulky. It's too heavy. Things change too quickly for that. I like to do process in a really light kind of way. And one of the things I think people get wrong with process too is who should define what the process is,
Mm.
right? So kind of the older model with the bigger companies is that management says this is what the process is. But then you hear people say like, why do I have to do it this way? I have to jump through all these hoops. It doesn't make sense, right? And then for the smaller companies, you see business owners tend to just let their people develop the process.
Mhm.
But then you have people say, like, I don't know who to go to. I don't know where to get the information. Nothing's the same. Everybody does it differently. So you kind of need the big picture and then you need the expertise of the people doing the job. So the way I like to do process and procedures is I think management should say what the process is, which is really a roles and responsibility thing. And I like to do process just in one diagram. And it's all the different people and systems and how they interact. It's almost like a big interaction diagram. So, like, what are the handoffs? What's the information that's going between them? How does it get there? What's the transport method? And just sort of how it all interacts. And I think management should define that because it's a roles and responsibility and accountability thing. But then once you get into what does the actual person do, the how to do the job, that should be left to the people on the front line and come up with like best practices on that. The only part that management should really be involved in that is the end product, right? So management should define like the quality standards or what they want the customer experience to be that the procedures end up to. But how do you get there? That's where you have to let your people be creative and innovative and come up with like clever ideas that you would never think of because you don't do what they do.
Sure. What I like about that is everyone gets an opportunity to work on it, and it's a buy-in on both ends. Not just
Yes.
management, not just the employees, but they work together.
Yes. Yeah, because people support what they create, right?
That's
And
right.
it really is a very common problem with growing companies. They'll have one key person doing something, and then like we were talking about, that key person is hitting their max, so they bring in other people, right? But if management hasn't defined what they want that end product or customer experience to be, well, then everybody's going to do it a little bit differently. And then your brand can start to deviate, the quality can start to deviate, the consistency. And so, one of the things you have to kind of figure out when doing a process too is you can have really prescriptive processes and you can have kind of guidelines, right? So if you have really prescriptive process that says, do this here, this there, you can just hire somebody off the street and say, here, go do this, right? They don't need to be skilled necessarily. But if you have highly skilled people, you can give them guidelines, and you don't necessarily have to give them the breakdown. So, there's a balance. People don't want to be cogs in the wheel. You have to give people room. But where you do want to be prescriptive is in that quality user interface. And then based on their skill set and experience, you can be more guidelines on the other part, and let them develop their own best practices within their groups.